Hello, welcome back to the Prosperity with Purpose podcast. I kind of want to do a really quick part 3 of this silent retreat. I want to decipher this real quick because this is so evident to me on what is causing so much of our anxiety. I listened to a video clip. I didn't even listen to this whole podcast episode, but I saw this clip and it was on Josh Axe. Dr. Axe has a podcast and he had on John Eldredge, which y'all know I love John Eldredge. It's the Pause app. He's the Man Alive retreat my husband goes to. He's really just this contemplative, helping the world slow down, love Jesus, know themselves, meditate on scriptures. Fantastic. So I'm going to even try to play this from my phone. I don't know if there's like copyright laws or whatever. Thank you, Dr. Axe and John Eldredge. You get full credit for these things. But I want you to listen to this excerpt. And I shared this in my Instagram stories right before I left for the silent retreat because it helps me understand. Let me just let's just play this and then we're going to play it out.
Your soul was actually never meant to know the news of the world. Human beings were meant to live in small organic communities of about 150 people. And part of the reason for that is you're just literally not supposed to know about the tragedy that's taking place right now in the Congo. We think that to be a responsible human being, this is one of the internet disciple lies. So I'm not shaming anyone. We've just been mentored into this way of living. We think that to be a responsible human being, you need to know what's happening in Ukraine. You need to know what Trump does. All of it. You need to know about the heartache that's taking place in the African civil wars right now or in Somalia. Folks, that's a lie. Your brain was literally not created for omniscience. You're not meant to know the tragedy of the world. And so learning to reduce your news intake, if you want to reduce anxiety in your children, make their world smaller.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second. Did you hear what he said? Okay, I was telling people here about the 150 people. Okay, hold on. I'm all over the place here. I was telling what struck out to me is that he said we were meant to only be in village communities of about 150 people max. Like that's the max on what we were supposed to know and care about and be involved with and know information on. Like that's the max. And the internet these days, there's lots of good things that come from the internet, but I need you to start understanding, especially as an entrepreneur who's a person of purpose who lives on purpose. This is distracting you from your purpose, but this is also creating so much chaos and anxiety in your life. If you were only created to maybe max know about 150 people, okay, we got to think about this in logical terms. You may have up to 5,000 Facebook friends. This cracks me up because me and my husband see differently on this. We'll be laying in bed and he'll be like, "Hey, did you see that? What happened to so and so?" And I'm like, "No, I don't follow them." And he'll be like, "Hey, you're," and he'll even sometimes mention a family member. And he's like, "Did you see that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't follow them." And he's telling me, and I'm like, "Babe, you weren't meant to know," and I'm guilty of this too, but this is just an example. Like, you were not meant to know the hurt and information and details of all the people that you know. I'm not even talking about cultural events yet. Just your Facebook friends. Okay. You weren't meant to know who wore that to what event. You weren't meant to know about their new job or their grandma that's sick or the tragedy that happened in their life or the fight that they are going or got in or the struggle that they're going through or what they're reading or what they're doing or how they're dressing or what vacation they're going on or what new car they bought or you were not meant to with the capacity to even carry that. Okay, it's no wonder that America is like drowning in depression and anxiety. You literally were not meant to carry that much information, even when it comes to business, right? And so in the cycle that I used to be in, it was like, oh, well, let me follow this business coach, and let me listen to this business podcast, and let me get in 5-10 different trainings, and let me scroll all these, I'm not just looking at funny memes on Instagram, I'm also looking at inspirational talks on reels and digital. And it's just like, you got information over here, and you save. Oh, save, I'm going to use that for later. Save, I'm going to make a post out of that. Save. And then you've noticed it's all just saved stuff that you ever never actually do anything with. It's more information than you were ever meant to carry, to handle. A funny example is the other day, Rob's mom. So Rob, he's not an only child, but he's like 15 years younger than his half sibling. So when he grew up, the other kids were out of the house and grown, right? And so he had a real legit encyclopedia set when he was a kid, and he loved to learn and stuff. And so he would sometimes just go read the encyclopedia when he was a kid. Do you guys remember? Because this was my childhood too. I remember in junior high, this is before the internets, y'all. Going to when you had a school project on an animal or on a location, how did you do your research search? No, you did not go to Google. You did not go to Chat GPT. You went to the library and you found the lettered encyclopedia for the topic, information on the topic you needed to study. And whatever was in that encyclopedia was the information that you could find out. Like, it is blowing my mind how much different it is to say, like, notice this. That's how much information we had, and that's how much information you could hold in your brain. We didn't have Facebook. Even thinking about like church camp when I was a kid, like, how did you keep up with your church camp friends that you loved and they lived far away? You wrote each other letters. Like, that's how you caught up with each other. Even I had a friend who moved to China, was missionary over there after college. This was even before Facebook, and I was like, I wrote her emails. That's how we would keep up with stuff. You'd even, that's an upgrade from technology from handwritten mail, but I'd have to I'd write these like page long emails to catch her up on life, to talk about her. There was no back and forth conversing. I'm like, what we are intaking is out of control. So back to the silent retreat. I was just talking to a friend and she was like, I mean, how did you do it? I mean, how did you turn off your phone? Like, did you get anxiety about not grabbing your phone every 5 minutes? And it was so interesting to me because I actually am on my phone a lot and I would still call myself an addict, but I didn't have any anxiety letting it go. And I think it's because of the miniature practices I've incorporated throughout my life of rest, of putting it away, of reducing my intake, of purposely reducing my anxiety. Like, I'm so excited. We go to a church camp. My family goes to a Pine Cove in South Carolina this summer, and it's for the entire week. I turn my phone off, off, not just oh, there's not internet in the cabin, so I'll take it to another building where there's internet. No, I turn it off, and it is such a reset for my brain on information overload, information intake, all this information of all these other people's lives, all these things going on all over the world. We were not meant to carry that weight. How I love that John Eldridge even worded it is he was like, we think that we're being responsible humans when we know all of this information, everything about politics, everything about other countries, everything about everybody in our town and in the other town, and the other, can we just take a breath? Can you notice? Can you see? You can't fix anything unless you notice. And once you know better, you do better. Can you notice that this is contributing to anxiety in your life? Can you notice that this is stalling you in your business? Can you notice that this is preventing you from your calling, the vision, and the dreams that God has and purpose that He has for your life on this world? It keeps getting stalled because you keep intaking information that doesn't matter in the big picture. And I understand sometimes in the heat of it, it's because I've been in those seasons, in the political seasons and other seasons, I'm like, no, this matters. I have to know. I have to tell others. I have to be in the know. What if it don't? What if 5-10 years from now, it just doesn't matter? So anyways, it's just fascinating for me to think about, because you even think about the movie Inside Out, right? The cartoon where all of her memories are stored. And it's so interesting. Every night she goes to sleep and they ball them up in these circled balls and they ship them off down way into her subconscious. But every single memory is there. And as I've been studying all of these things, somatic stuff, memories, brain, thoughts, all of it is there. We actually are only aware of a very small percentage. We're only conscious of 10% of the stuff that we do every day. While we interact, what we think about is only about 10%. 90% is that iceberg that's underwater. That's the reason that you're triggered. That's the way you'll interact with somebody, or somebody will make you feel some way and you're super heightened. The drama meter is so way up high when it has actually hardly anything to do with the actual situation at hand, but it's triggering an old wound or an old memory, an old feeling, or something that still needs to be processed. 90% of that is there. Okay. And so when you continue to intake information like it's going out of style, all of that has to go somewhere. Like it literally has to be stored. So all of that information, again, going back to the difference between 30 years from now and today, like when we only had encyclopedias, when we did not have social media, when we, like we didn't have any of that stuff. So that was literally all that we had. That was all that at night that would go off to our subconscious that would have to be stored. And now we have like 5 bajillion times the just literal amount of memories and thoughts and information. And we were never meant to carry the information. So sometimes this is like I'm going to say it, like anxiety in a sense is just a natural consequence of what you are choosing to intake. Like, let's take some ownership. If we believe that we are co-creators and we're creating our life and creating our future, we have to stop being like, I don't know why I have so much anxiety. I don't know why I feel so overwhelmed all the time. Let's start taking some ownership on your participation and what is contributing to this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling of anxiety, and this phone addiction. And so it's so fascinating when I coach some of my clients, I'm like, you have to have a rest day. I mean, like, you have to have a rest day. And we go through the history of Sabbath and the history of rest equals trust. I have multiple past episodes on that. Logan, let's look those up and put those in the show notes. Like that all is there, but they're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. What if I rest? I can't. And it's this element of control. And as your coach, I'm just like, as your podcast person you're listening to, I'm telling you that rest or phone detoxing, you may not do it for a 3-day retreat, but it is not optional. It is mandatory for the mantle that you are called to carry in your business, but also in your home as a wife, as a mom, as a friend, as a sister. Like that, you're contributing to not having the capacity for the things that are most important in your life. And so I just was really reminded of this again. I was Marco Poloing a friend on my drive home, and that John Eldridge and excerpt, and me just leaving a silent retreat. And I also wanted to read somebody else's post that they made about this. Okay, so my friend Carissa was there, and I had some other friends there and many strangers there. But anyway, she made a post right before she left, and I thought it was really profound. Let me read a little bit of it to you guys. She said, hey, you guys, I want to let you know that I'm leaving on a silent retreat today, and I won't have access to electronics through Saturday evening. I'm so excited for the quiet time with the Lord and eagerly anticipating what the next 2 days hold. And then she was saying how her assistant, if they see things in her stories or posts that are actually coming from her assistant, she had her phone off. And then she said, say a prayer for me. And hey, this is important. This is the part that was like, it's so interesting to me. She said, say a prayer for me. And hey, pay attention to your jealousy. Maybe God is calling you to get away and spend more time in quiet with him on a more regular basis. One of the books I read this past year was Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. We've talked about that before. And one of the things the author said was pay attention to your jealousy. Meaning, obviously not indulge in the sin of jealousy, but pay attention to deep, unmet longings in your heart and what the Spirit may be telling you through them. For me, that inspired me to write out these intentional life rhythms. And then she lists some things she wants to do. 1 day a week, solitude a month, digital detox during 1 weekly day of Sabbath, phone to bed at 9:30 in a separate room in a separate drawer, and live life without haste and without sloth. And so that happy medium, without not too much hurry, but not too much laziness, right? But pay attention to your jealousy. And when I was asking her about it at the retreat, when we could still talk, we could eat dinner together. And I was like, that concept of pay attention to your jealousy is really interesting. And she said, yeah, because I've been talking to a lot of people about this treat, and they're like, oh, that sounds so amazing, but I could never do that. And she was like, interesting. And she was like, people like, oh, I need to do that. Like that would be so good for me, but I couldn't do that. I could never put my phone away. And that was just such an interesting revelation for me. And for like, it's not hard for me to put my phone away, but this concept of like, notice the jealousy. We're like, oh, I love that you do that, but I could never do that. notice why. I mean, yes, you could, but notice that what they're really meaning behind, well, I could never do that, is I could never put my phone away for that long, or I could never live if I turned my phone off, or I grabbed for my phone way too many times. Like that would increase my anxiety to have to not look at my phone. It's just like, let's be aware of how our choices have got us to where we are today. Our choices have got us where we are today, which actually is incredibly exciting, because if your choices got you to where you are today in this anxietous, depression, overwhelmed state, that also means your choices can get you out of that state. And so start with the baby steps. Maybe you don't need to go cold turkey and go a whole month without a cell phone. Okay. But you need to go 4 hours. I always tell everybody, I'm like, when they're incorporating rest, maybe they don't rest from work for a whole day when they first start, which I highly encourage, but you need to go 4 hours. And you need to make it so you're not tempted. That's why when we turn our phones in at the silent retreat, it's not for like meanness or like rules and religiousness, and you're like, it's for just accountability. Because if you turn your phone off and turn it in, it's all, everybody's phone is in one bag in her room, then you have the accountability that you didn't look at your phone, because you literally can't. And so whatever you need to do, whether that's for 4 hours, turn it off, give it to your husband, or put it in another room, or go on a walk, heaven forbid, without your phone. It is possible. Do these baby steps to get you the result that you're longing for. It may be incredibly uncomfortable for you. It actually may cause more anxiety for you in the short run, but you have to look at long term. What are the results that you're longing for, and what are you wanting to create in your life? Are you wanting more input and more information and more other people's opinions and more fear of man and more comparison and more sadness and more grief and more of this, and all of this is just like overwhelming you, literally weighing you down, literally causing more anxiety within you? Or are you longing for more freedom? Are you longing to hear the voice of God more than anybody else's? Are you longing to get clear on your calling within your business, and what is the next right step of obedience for you? You cannot hear that with the noise of everything else. And so may I bless you with rest. May I bless you with your own rhythm of less input into your life. May I bless you with hearing the voice of God. Like, you cannot continue to say, I can't hear from God. I don't know what God wants for my life. I can't hear his voice, if you aren't putting the phone away and having space to listen, because he is talking. He's talking all the time. His word is alive and available and probably right next to you on your nightstand at all times. It is not fair and not even true for you to say, I can't hear from him. I don't know what's next. I don't know why I have so full of anxiety. Take some ownership. Take some steps, not from a place of shame or condemnation, but his loving kindness leads us to repentance. His loving kindness changes us. But there's a part to play on our side. It's a two-way. It's like I was saying about frequency earlier, like the radio station is always there. You just don't tuned into that station. You can choose to turn into that station at any time. And I bless you with that this week. I challenge you with that this week to take I'm not going for 4 hours. I want to challenge you, go big or go home, to take a full day without your phone. It's okay if you feel uncomfortable. It's okay if it brings up some things for you. Get a pen and paper out. Go watch my three short stories on when this podcast releases. Logan, remind me and share my stories again. I have 3 reels I did a couple years ago on how to journal. Some people are like, you say you journal all the time, but how do you do that? I'm going to reshare those in my stories right after this is released. Okay, and I want you to go and watch those. I want you to have a pen and paper out on your day, with your digital detox day, because some stuff's going to come up. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel addicted. You're going to feel whatever. But some of those things you need to feel and process so you can move forward to not feel them anymore. Man, his invitation is there. May you take him up on that invitation. This is not just my invitation to challenge you. Like, the Lord is longing for this for you. We were created to operate from rest, not input, intake, work, crash. No, let's get out of that state of crash into that state of peace and joy and righteousness. That's what we were called to. That's what we were originally wired for. Let's go back to our original design. You weren't made to know the weight of the world. I bless you.